Welcome to the Pardes channel. Today, we explain Leviticus chapter 7 in a clear and simple way, step by step. We're going to dive right into this incredibly fascinating, meticulously detailed text. Think of this as the ultimate step-by-step operational manual for the ancient Israelite priesthood. We're going to take a really deep, chronological dive together to see exactly how all these ancient procedures make absolute logical sense.
So, to give us just a bit of brief context before we get into the weeds, imagine we are standing right there with the Israelites at the foot of Mount Sinai. The tabernacle, it's just been built, and God is carefully outlining the exact procedures for how the entire community is going to interact with this brand new sacred space. Here is our roadmap for today's explainer. First, context and guilt offerings. Then, the fellowship offerings. Third, we'll cover the fat and blood. Fourth, the priest portion, and finally, key ideas and lessons.
All right, let's jump straight into Section 1, Context and Guilt Offerings, the rules at the Tent of Meeting. As always, our primary source material for this is the original Hebrew text. By keeping our eyes fixed right here on the Hebrew, we stay totally grounded in what is called the Peshat. That's the simple, direct, literal meaning of the text. We aren't looking for deep, mystical symbolism or Kabbalah today. Actually, scratch that, we never do here. We are focusing strictly on the literal, step-by-step instructions given to Moses.
Okay, looking at verses 1 through 7, the physical sequence required for the guilt offering is strictly, and I mean strictly, enforced. It's like a choreographed routine. First, the animal has to be slaughtered in the exact same place where the burnt offering is slaughtered. Second, its blood must be sprinkled against the altar on all sides. Third, the priest removes very specific fats. We're talking the fat tail, the fat covering the inner parts, the kidneys, and the covering of the liver. All of that gets burned on the altar as a fire offering to the Lord. And finally, the law states that any male in a priest's family can eat the remaining meat. But, and this is a big but, it absolutely must be eaten in a holy place. And the meat belongs specifically to the priest who actually makes the atonement.
Now, moving right along to verses 8 through 10, we see exactly how the priests are compensated for their crucial spiritual labor. Remember, this system is designed so that the priests, who don't have any inherited land of their own, are fully supported by their work at the altar. So if a priest offers a burnt offering for someone, that specific officiating priest gets to keep the animal's hide. But when it comes to grain offerings, the text makes a really interesting distinction. If the grain offering is baked in an oven, cooked in a pan, or on a griddle, it belongs exclusively to the specific priest who offers it. However, if that grain offering is dry or mixed with raw oil, well then it's divided equally among all the sons of Aaron. Pretty organized, right?
Moving right along to Section 2, the fellowship offerings, timelines, and purity.
So when it comes to the fellowship offerings, or Shelamim in Hebrew, you have to think of it as a massive communal meal shared by the offerer, their family, and the priests. And because it's a shared meal with God, there are strict expiration dates. If it is a Thanksgiving offering, brought with unleavened cakes and yeast bread, you've got to eat it on the exact same day, no leftovers allowed. But if the offering is for a vow or just a free will offering, the timeline is kind of relaxed a bit. You can eat it on the day of the sacrifice, and whatever is left over can be eaten on the second day. But mark your calendars, because by the third day, any remaining meat has got to be burned up in the fire. If you actually eat it on the third day, the text says it will not be accepted, it is considered impure, and the person who eats it is held completely responsible.
Now, looking at verses 19 through 21, we learn about the absolute necessity of ritual purity when interacting with these holy items. The instructions here are black and white. If the holy meat touches anything ceremonially unclean, it is ruined. It cannot be eaten, it goes straight into the fire. As for the meat that remains clean, only individuals who are themselves ceremonially clean are permitted to eat it. If a person is ritually unclean, whether that's from touching human uncleanliness, an unclean animal, or any detestable thing, and they go ahead and eat the meat of the fellowship offering belonging to the Lord anyway, well, there's a very severe consequence for that.
To truly grasp the gravity of these rules, we need to look at the Hebrew word used for this severe penalty. The word is correct, which literally translates to being cut off. The text repeats over and over that the violator will be cut off from his people. This isn't just a minor fine or a slap on the wrist, folks. Being correct means being spiritually and physically severed from the entire community. It means losing your place entirely among the Israelites and bearing direct divine punishment. It is literally the most serious consequence imaginable.
Let's move on to Section 3, the fat and blood, absolute prohibitions. Okay, so verses 22 through 27 establish some of the most famous, absolutely universal dietary rules in the entire Tanakh. The text here is exceptionally clear. The choicest fats, known in Hebrew as chelev, are exclusively reserved for the altar. The Lord tells Moses to instruct the Israelites, do not eat any of the fat of cattle, sheep, or goats. Period. Now, if an animal is found dead or torn by wild animals, its fat can totally be used for other practical, everyday purposes, but it absolutely must not be eaten. Anyone who eats the chelev of an animal that could be a fire offering faces that ultimate penalty we just talked about. They will be cut off from their people.
The second absolute prohibition is equally strict. The text says, "And wherever you live, you must not eat the blood of any bird or animal." Notice that phrase, wherever you live. This isn't just a rule for when you're visiting the sanctuary. This is a hard and fast rule for their daily lives at home. Blood represents life itself, and it's reserved solely for atonement on the altar. If anyone eats blood, the text doesn't mince words, repeating the warning. That person must be cut off from his people.
Next up is Section 4, the priest's portion, perpetual compensation.
In verses 28 through 36, we see that when an Israelite brings a fellowship offering, they don't just, hand the animal over to the priest and walk away. They actively participate in what is called the tenufa, or wave offering. The person brings the fat together with the breast of the animal, and they physically heave or wave the breast before the Lord. This physical motion is a powerful declaration. They are basically saying, I am dedicating this to God, and God is giving it back to the priests. The priest then takes the fat and burns it on the altar, but that waved breast, that is kept as a holy portion of food.
So how exactly is this perpetual income stream mapped out for the priesthood? It's really specific. After the breast is waved, it belongs to Aaron and all his sons as a regular ongoing share. But that's not all. The offerer must also give the right thigh as a teruma, which is a contribution or heave offering. And who gets that right thigh? The specific son of Aaron who actually officiates that day. This right here is a lasting ordinance, a regular share allotted to the priests from the very day they were anointed to serve the Lord. It ensures they are always taken care of.
Verses 37 and 38 serve as a brilliant bookend for this entire section of Leviticus. It neatly summarizes everything we've read, stating, "These then are the regulations for the burnt offering, the grain offering, the sin offering, the guilt offering, the ordination offering, and the fellowship offering." It takes all of these meticulous, highly detailed instructions and roots them in one specific historical moment and place. They were given to Moses by the Lord on Mount Sinai, in the desert of Sinai, on the very day the Israelites were commanded to bring their offerings.
All right, let's wrap this up with Section 5, key ideas and lessons, practical takeaways.
Now that we've gone through the text, I want you to ask yourself a question. What can we learn from this highly structured rule book today? Why did God institute such specific timelines, such careful boundaries regarding purity, and such a detailed, precise system of compensation? What's the core message here?
Well, these simple ideas actually teach us some profound lessons. First, we learn to respect absolute boundaries. The strict prohibitions against eating fat and blood teach us that, hey, not everything is for our consumption. Certain things belong solely to the sacred domain. Second, we learn the absolute importance of supporting our community and spiritual leaders. The priests had no other livelihood, so the specific portions of the breast and thigh ensured that those who dedicated their entire lives to serving the public were adequately fed and supported. And third, we learn about timely gratitude. Think about it. The Thanksgiving offering had to be eaten on the exact same day. This beautifully illustrates that when we feel gratitude, we shouldn't hoard it or delay it. We need to share it and express it immediately before it expires.
Let's do a quick Section 6, short recap to lock this all in.
We've seen exactly how this chapter organizes the rights and responsibilities within the camp. The guilt and grain offerings have incredibly strict rules about who eats them and where. The fellowship offerings, which are meant to be shared, have strict 1 or 2 day expiration dates to prevent spoiling and really encourage immediate sharing. The fat of sacrificial animals and the blood of any animal, universally forbidden, carrying the absolute most severe penalty of being cut off. And finally, the priests are perpetually sustained by receiving the specific cuts of the waved breast and the right thigh. We see the rights of the altar, the rights of the priests, and the heavy responsibilities of the people perfectly, brilliantly balanced.
It leaves you wondering, doesn't it? In a modern world that so often feels incredibly chaotic, couldn't we benefit from this level of clarity? These ancient texts remind us that a community only truly thrives when it has clear shared boundaries, when it actively supports those who serve it, and when it maintains an unwavering respect for the sacred. So,
What are the wave offerings and boundaries in your own life?
Thank you for learning with us. If this helped you understand the chapter better, like, subscribe, and join us for the next chapter.